I had never believed in destiny, or in aliens, or in anything that defied common sense. Yet there I was, standing in the center of a colossal starship, clutching a cup of something warm, my heart pounding so fast it felt like it might leak out of my chest. She called me her husband. I whispered to no one, though the entire observation deck was empty. The words felt absurd even as I spoke them. I had barely met her. Her name was Liora. I remembered how she appeared, suddenly, from the glow of the starfield outside the window, stepping through an interdimensional rift with a grace that seemed to bend light. Her eyes were impossible, liquid silver that reflected more than the room around us. And she had looked at me, really looked at me, and spoken a single word. Husband. I had stumbled back, unsure if I'd misunderstood. I'd been pulled into her world, or perhaps she had pulled me into hers. I didn't know how any of it was possible. But Liora wasn't human, and this was not my world. You are? I stammered. Her smile was gentle, yet there was a weight behind it, a gravity that pressed on my chest. The one I promised, she said. I blinked. I don't understand. Her voice was calm, melodic, like a memory I couldn't recall but felt intimately familiar. You will. But first you must see. Before I could protest, before my mind could even begin to catch up, she took my hand, and the floor beneath us shimmered. The starship vanished. We stood on a landscape of impossible beauty. Mountains of crystal that reflected twin suns. Oceans of liquid light. A sky painted in colors that no human eye had a name for. And in the center of it all, a massive city suspended in midair, with structures that twisted and curved as if alive. This is my home, Liora said. And you are part of it. Part of me. I laughed nervously. I think you've made a mistake. No mistake, she said. You remember nothing. But you will. And what you learn will shatter you. Her words were a warning. And as I would soon discover, she wasn't wrong. The memories unravel the ceremony. She led me through the floating city. Her people, tall, ethereal, shimmering beings, looked at me with something between reverence and curiosity. They bowed as we passed. You are my husband, Liora said again, as though repeating it might make it real. And the ceremony will remind you why. Ceremony? My stomach turned. I didn't want a ceremony. I didn't want any of this. But the moment we stepped into a colossal hall, I understood that choice wasn't an option. The room itself seemed alive. Holographic stars swirled above us. Light danced along the walls in patterns that hurt and healed my brain simultaneously. Liora raised her hand. The air shimmered, and suddenly, images began to appear. Not in front of me. Within me. Memories. Memories that weren't mine but somehow were. I saw a younger Liora, fragile and alone, running from something. A human figure appeared, guiding her, protecting her, teaching her to survive in a galaxy that wanted her dead. And the human was me. Or rather, a version of me. A me I had no memory of being. A me who had crossed dimensions, who had fallen through time and space to save her when she was still a child in her world. You did this, she said softly. You saved me. You shaped me. And yet you do not remember. I shook my head. I don't understand. I never did any of this. Her expression softened. Because you were always here, in another timeline. Always by my side. Always my anchor. I felt a chill. If this was true, what kind of life had I led elsewhere? What did it mean that a version of me had existed beyond memory? I struggled to grasp it. Everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie. The shattering truth the memories continued, each more unbearable than the last. I saw worlds we had saved, galaxies we had explored, battles we had fought, not as humans, but as hybrid beings bridging species, protecting civilizations. Liora's people had revered me without knowing why, and yet I had never been aware. And then came the hardest memory, the one that shattered me completely. I saw her, as a child, facing annihilation. Her home world burned, her people slaughtered. I saw my own hands reaching out, saving her at the cost of something terrible, a human colony that had been wiped out in the process. A trade-off I hadn't known I made. A sacrifice I hadn't remembered. Liora's gaze found mine. "You were my savior," she said, tears forming in those impossible silver eyes. "And you lost everything to do it." I could barely breathe. I killed them," I whispered. "You didn't mean to," she said, "but you made a choice. And that choice saved me." I sank to the floor. My mind reeled. My own species had suffered so that this alien child could live? And worse, my consciousness had carried that burden across dimensions, stripped from memory, only to be revealed now. She knelt beside me. "You are my husband," she repeated, softer this time. "Not because of ceremony, not because of tradition. Because you always were. Because you chose me. And because you saved me at a cost even you could not remember." I wanted to deny it, to run, to escape. But deep down, I knew she was right. The weight of immortality. We walked through her city as the memories continued. I saw centuries pass, our life together in flashes I could not fully comprehend. I watched civilizations flourish and collapse around us. I saw the galaxies we had healed, the sacrifices made to keep her safe. And all the while, I watched myself remain constant, unchanging, always there, always loyal, always her husband. The realization crushed me. I was not just a man who had lived one life. I was the culmination of choices across timelines. A protector, a warrior, a witness to both triumph and tragedy. And the one I loved, the alien who had saved me in some sense I could not yet understand, was the reason I had endured it all. I can't carry all of this," I whispered. "You can," Liora said. "Because you always have. Because you were meant to. And because the bond we share transcends memory, space, and time." I wanted to scream. I wanted to collapse. I wanted to forget again. But I couldn't. And I didn't want to. Not anymore. Ending, acceptance, and the future, the choice finally. She brought me to a chamber at the heart of her city. Light poured from crystalline structures embedded in the walls. The stars outside seemed close enough to touch. And there, standing at the center, was an ancient device, part memorial, part technology, part something divine. "This is the Nexus," Liora said. "It will restore your memories fully. Every choice you made, every life you lived, every world you touched, you will see it all. But be warned, the weight may break you." I looked at her, unsure if I was ready. She took my hand. "You already carry it," she said. "Now you will understand." I nodded. Together, we stepped forward. Light engulfed me. Revelation. I saw everything. Every sacrifice. Every victory. Every loss. Every choice I had ever made in every timeline. And in that flood of memory, I finally understood. I was more than a human. I was a constant in her life. Her protector. Her anchor. Her husband in a way I had never comprehended. Not through ceremony, but through existence itself. And she had always been mine, too. Her life, her survival, her love, they had been intertwined with me before I had the capacity to even realize it. The revelation shattered me, not with pain, but with awe. Acceptance. When the light faded, I collapsed to my knees. She knelt beside me, silver eyes shining with understanding. "You are my husband," she said again. "Not because you chose me in this life, but because you always will, across all possibilities." I looked at her, finally seeing her not just as an alien, not just as a mysterious being, but as the person I had always been meant to protect, and who had saved me in ways I could never fully articulate. I understand," I whispered. I will follow you. Always." She smiled. And in that smile, I felt the weight lift. The past, the choices, the sacrifices, they were no longer a burden. They were proof. Proof that love, loyalty, and courage could span lifetimes and galaxies. And for the first time, I truly believed it. Legacy, we walked from the chamber hand in hand. Galaxies awaited. Lives to protect. Worlds to heal.
Choices to make.
But this time, I knew I would never walk alone. She called me her husband, and I finally understood what that meant.